So, you want to go hiking in Glacier National Park, Montana, and are trying to figure out the best trails in Glacier National Park. Well, you're in the right place. In today's episode, we're going to look at my top picks for the 10 best hikes in Glacier National Park. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written tons of guides and published several itineraries for Glacier National Park. By sharing my picks for the best day hikes in Glacier National Park, I'm going to help you choose the best trails for your own vacation. You'll know exactly what to expect, so you can easily curate your own hiking list. You'll have peace of mind that you won't accidentally miss out on an epic hike that you would have loved. And you also won't bite off more than you can chew. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening to this somewhere else, follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. You don't need to hike to enjoy the park, but if you can do it, hiking at Glacier National Park will allow you to see parts of the park that you can't see on the scenic drive or from a lake cruise. Be sure to stay to the end, where I'll be sharing my number one pick for the Glacier National Park best hikes. It may surprise you because it's not the most popular hike in the park, but it is amazing. Let's get started.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian, the national park expert. He's here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
So, what are the 10 top hikes in Glacier National Park? My first picks. Perhaps the most famous and popular trail in Glacier is the Highline Trail. The trail leads from Highline Trail parking lot at Logan Pass, and it starts easy, but it soon snakes along the park's exposed garden wall. It hugs a cliff wall high above the Going to the Sun Road. And in this section, there are some exposed parts with steep drop-offs, but there's a chain to hold on to. If you're afraid of heights, it might be a bit intimidating, but it's also one of the coolest sections of the trail. While at 11.8 miles each way, and you only need to go one way, it does make for a full day of hiking. The trail itself is rated as moderate. From the parking lot, it's downhill most of the time to the trail's end at the Loop parking lot, with just a few uphill sections along the way. And then when you get to the Loop parking lot at the end, you can actually get a shuttle back to your vehicle or just hop on the shuttle if you took the shuttle to the trailhead in the first place. There's really no better way to see Glacier's wide array of wildlife, the alpine flowers when they're in season, snow-covered peaks than the Highline Trail. It's really the national park on full display. It's really amazing. It has some of the best views for the entire length of the trail. When you hike the trail, you should bring lots of water. The entire trail is exposed and there's very little fresh water along the way. It's not until 7 miles from the trailhead at Logan Pass that you get to Granite Park Chalet, where they have some water for sale. We also recommend dressing in layers. The morning may start cool even in the summer, but it can get hot by midday in the summer particularly. When you're hiking the trail, around the 7-mile mark, there's a short offshoot that goes to the Salamander Glacier and Grinnell Glacier. It's a really steep, strenuous uphill climb, but if you're not afraid of heights and if you're up for it, it's absolutely worth it. The views at the end of Grinnell Glacier are just amazing. What's another popular trail? An incredible trail in Glacier is the Avalanche Lake Trail. With an elevation gain of over 750 feet over the 5.9 miles of the trail, it's rated as moderate, but the views are worth every single step. The Avalanche Lake Trail starts at the Trail of the Cedars. This is a really nice flat boardwalk that takes you through some tall cedar trees to a really beautiful mossy stream. And then past that is the trailhead that then continues on the out and back section of the trail to Avalanche Lake. The trail to the lake from this point is mostly uphill, so this is where it gets moderate. When you're doing the hike, watch out for tree roots. It is an uneven path for most of the way to the lake. When you get there, Avalanche Lake is gorgeous, and there's a really beautiful backdrop. Across the lake are snow-capped mountains and beautiful waterfalls cascading down from the peaks. It's a really peaceful place and just a perfect spot to rest and just enjoy the beautiful views. A word of warning, it is a very popular trail in the park, so the parking lot often fills up very quickly. If you're not taking the shuttle, then I would aim to get to the trailhead very early by 7 a.m. in peak summer hours in order to find a parking spot. Or you could wait until afternoon when the early morning hikers have returned to their vehicles, and you've got a much better chance of finding a parking spot then. Number three, an easy trail in Glacier National Park is the Hidden Lake Overlook Trail. The trail to the Overlook is actually the first half of the Hidden Lake Trail. It leads from the Logan Pass Visitor Center, and it's rated as moderate. It's just 1.5 miles to the Overlook. It's a combination of paved path, boardwalk, and dirt walkway. Just keep in mind that snow does often linger in the early summer months even, because it's pretty high up. The view from the Overlook is arguably the best view in Glacier National Park, so it's definitely not a compromise if you don't want to complete the much more strenuous all the way down to Hidden Lake. From the Overlook, you'll see Clements Mountain and Bear Hat Mountains. They make this really striking backdrop, and the lake down the bottom is so beautiful. Close encounters with wildlife are also common, so keep an eye out for marmots, ram goats, and of course the white mountain goats that are kind of a symbol of the park. Just be sure to give them plenty of space, even if they seem friendly. Grizzly bears have also been spotted around the lake, so I recommend taking bear spray with you. The trail is completely exposed to the elements of the high elevation, so pack accordingly for the sun and wind. And I recommend hiking the trail first thing in the morning to avoid crowds if you can. What if you're up for a more strenuous hike? A wonderful hike for those with energy to burn is the Hidden Lake Trail, where you continue past the Overlook. At 5 miles, it's not super long, but the second half of it is kind of steep. It starts with the trail to the Hidden Lake Overlook, which is pretty easy, but then you continue to the lake itself. Going all the way down to the glacially carved lakes provides really spectacular close-up views and better chances of seeing wildlife, not to mention, of course, the opportunity to get away from the crowds at the Overlook, which is much more popular. The Overlook is pretty much exactly halfway between the trailhead and the lake. So from there, the second half of the trail, it's not particularly difficult, but you'll descend 770 feet, and there are some switchbacks to navigate as you get closer to the bottom. The trail ends at the northwest end of the lake, and there are a couple of pit toilets there. When you get there, feel free to wander around the lake. It's a really nice place for a picnic lunch as well. The overlook to the lake portion of the trail does frequently have bear activity, so be very careful, be very cautious, make some noise, have bear spray with you, pay careful attention. I recommend arriving very early or late in the day to avoid the bulk of the crowds. It is popular. Trails can often be crowded when you hike in Glacier National Park. If you prefer a little more isolation, you can actually get away from most of the crowds by hiking to the remote Medicine Grizzly Lake. Because the elevation gain is only 625 feet, this is a great way to get into Glacier's backcountry without the climbing pains that some of the more strenuous hikes have. It is long, it's 12.4 miles round trip, and it's rated as medium. It just doesn't have that elevation gain that some of the other trails have. It leads from the Pitamakan Pass trailhead, which is at the end of the Cut Bank Road. And the road starts outside the park, actually, from a separate entrance, about 11 miles south of St. Mary's on Highway 89. From the trail, the distant mountains are gorgeous. In the southern eastern range, you can see Mad Wolf Mountain and Bad Marriage Mountain. And the trail follows Cut Bank Creek, moving between the forested trails and meadow paths. The open meadows are full of bear grass and huckleberries in summer. There's lots of wildflowers there. It's really pretty. The willows along the creek are great for seeing moose and deer very often. Of course, there's no guarantee, but good chance. The grasses are sometimes shoulder high here, so it's important to be extra bear aware and make sure that you have bear spray. Just before you arrive at your destination, you'll see this really large, beautiful meadow where also it's a really great place to see wildlife often. And then Medicine Grizzly Lake itself sits in a bowl surrounded by mountain peaks, including Triple Divide Peak and Razor Edge Mountain. You'll find waterfalls cascading down the walls, a great picnic lunch spot. Just follow the edge of the lake to the sandbar where you can actually stretch out and just take in the whole view. We are halfway through. Before we look at my other favorite hikes in Glacier National Park, if you're watching this on my @National Parks Collecting YouTube channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. It really does help. A challenging hike in Glacier National Park is the Loop Trail. This trail is a great alternative to the Highline Trail, as it follows the same trail as part of the Highline Trail. It's a challenging 11.4-mile out and back trail, and it leads from the Loop, which is a hairpin turn along the Going to the Sun Road. The Loop is also a shuttle stop. It's also the end of the Highline Trail. So on the Loop Trail, you're starting there, going out and back. And the trail follows some switchbacks from the Loop parking lot all the way up to Granite Park Chalet, which is about 2,600 feet above your initial starting point. Now, the uphill climb there can feel a little relentless at times. The views are spectacular, which kind of helps. And then once you make your way up to the chalet, which is a historic lodge built in 1915, you'll have panoramic views of the mountains from there. I recommend, if you've got the energy and if you're fit and up for it, to add on the additional climb to the Grinnell Glacier Overlook. The ascent is kind of brutal. It gains about 1,000 feet in under a mile. So definitely a workout, but the views at the top are sensational. I recommend doing this hike early. It is a popular day hike. The parking lot at the Loop is extremely limited. So if you're not taking the shuttle, you should absolutely aim to be one of the first people there to guarantee a parking spot. If challenging hikes are not your thing, there are options. A really nice, easy hike in Glacier is the hike to Virginia Falls. The Virginia Falls hike is an easy 2.9-mile scenic walk with excellent views of several waterfalls, and these are the highlights of the trail. It leaves from a small parking lot just off the Going to the Sun Road. Almost immediately descends into forest, and then about halfway along you'll come to St. Mary's Falls, and this is beautiful. It's bright turquoise waterfall that's absolutely worth a stop along the way. A bridge goes right over the falls, and there are plenty of spots to stop and grab some photos. The hike to this point is one of the most popular. It's a very easy hike in the park, so there are a lot of people there and the trail can get crowded, so I recommend getting an early start, A, for parking, but also to avoid overcrowding. It's just beautiful. But from there, you can continue on, and the hike gets even better, in my opinion. So after leaving St. Mary's Falls, it gets slightly steeper on the way to Virginia Falls. You'll pass the lower falls, but be sure to keep going until you see a bridge on the left side of the trail and a sign directing you to the right to the overlook to Virginia Falls. You'll hear the sound of the falls, and you'll see a large cloud of mist from the falls, chances are, and then you can hike all the way up to the base of the falls. Just be mindful the water does get very cold. It's a great spot for a snack or a picnic, and it's really just a beautiful waterfall. Totally recommend it. If you're looking for a hike without the crowds, then Bowman Lake is the perfect place to go. This full trail is 26 miles if you do the full trail out and back, but good news, you can actually hike part of the trail for a shorter and easier hike. It leaves from the Bowman Lake campground, which is located in the northwestern section of Glacier National Park, in the much less visited North Fork section. So head 7 miles northeast of Polebridge on a bumpy, unpaved road, and at the end you'll come to Bowman Lake. Actually, not far from the Canadian border here. It's kind of remote and not that many people go there, but it's really beautiful. You can park your car near the Bowman Lake campground and then just follow the signage to the lake. You'll see little views of the lake along the way, and then when you get to the lake, you can hop on the hiking trail that follows the left side shore, heading northwest through the forest. Don't forget to bring bear spray here. There is quite a lot of potential bear activity. There's hardly any elevation change until well past the lake, so if you're just doing the first part, it's actually not rated as difficult. You can hike for as long as little as you like, which is kind of nice depending on you and your group's likes and abilities. If you hike for about 6.5 miles into the hike, you'll hit this really beautiful backcountry campground along a rocky beach at the far end of Bowman Lake. And then hiking further is when the trail becomes difficult as the challenging elevation begins towards Brown Pass. A hike in Glacier National Park that not many people do, but it's great, is the hike to Otokomi Lake. Now, even though it's easily accessible in one of the most popular areas of the park, it's not one of the park's most popular hikes, which makes it a perfect option for those of you who want to get a little off the beaten path. It's rated as moderately difficult. It's 11 miles out and back, so 5.5 miles each way. And it winds through a variety of different landscapes, including some post-fire regrowth, some really dense forest, and past plenty of waterfalls and streams. The reward at the end of the hike, of course, is Lake Otokomi, a beautiful turquoise blue glacier-fed lake that's filled with beautiful red rocks and wild trout. It's really a lovely day. You can make a full day of it. So far today, we've seen 9 amazing hikes in Glacier, and there's just one more left. So what is the number 1 hike in Glacier National Park? I'll share that in just a moment. But before we do, you may be thinking, these all sound amazing, but the hikes here have different difficulty levels. They're in different parts of the park. They have different highlights. The park is huge. So how can I coordinate all these hikes into an itinerary that makes sense for me and my family? This was one of the main things that I took into account when I created my Glacier National Park itineraries. In addition to all those things, timing is key. You need to coordinate to get a parking spot and not spend hours driving around for a parking spot or an entrance line. So I created super detailed itineraries for 2 and 3 days, as well as another one for 4 and 5 day trips. Obviously, the longer the itinerary, the more of these hikes that you can do, but the shorter itineraries do include the most spectacular hikes. You'll also want to cater to everyone in your group, which can be tricky. Not everyone likes the same hikes or has the same energy levels. Some people don't like to hike at all, of course. So they also include different options for doing alternate hikes to the same views or similar views where that's possible, and alternatives for the same area in the park for people who don't want to do these hikes and for non-hikers who want easier options. You can find the link to the Glacier National Park itineraries at the top of the description box below, but we can take a quick look now. The itineraries start with a park overview and useful information, and then they have a really detailed schedule for each day, and then all sorts of details with hiking descriptions and maps, but also driving directions and maps, timings, tips, important things to know and be aware of, and much more. With one of these itineraries, you'll know exactly what to do and when and how to connect them all in a way that makes the most sense to be in the right place at the right time. Without this itinerary, I often find people struggling with how to coordinate their time to be in the right place at the right time and to see and do all that they want in the time that they have available. The itineraries will just help take away the overwhelm and give you all the information that you need in one spot so that you don't need to worry about missing out on the highlights of the park or stress about how to put everything together that you want to do into a schedule that makes the most sense. Just follow the link in the show notes below. Now, as promised, what's my number 1 hike in Glacier National Park? My number 1 pick for the best trail in the park is the Grinnell Glacier Trail. This is a 10.6 mile out and back trail without a ferry ride that I'll talk about in just a second, or 7.6 miles out and back with the ferry ride. And it leads from the Many Glacier Trailhead. It's an out and back trail, as I mentioned, that winds past 3 alpine lakes and gains about 1,600 feet in elevation, and it ends high in the mountains at Grinnell Glacier. It is rated as strenuous, so it's not for everyone, but if you can do it, it's amazing. The majority of the hike is along steep cliff edges and filled with incredible alpine views of the mountains, glacier-fed lakes, multiple snow caps and glaciers and wildflowers. It's so beautiful. In addition to the sensational views of Grinnell Glacier at the end, there are panoramic overlooks of the mountains, the valleys, the 3 alpine lakes, and views of multiple glaciers along the hike. Plus, really good chances of seeing wildlife such as bighorn sheep, mountain goats, grizzly bears, take your bear spray, and other animals. As I mentioned, it's 10.6 miles out and back without a ferry ride. However, you can cut 3 miles out of this and just make it a 7.6 mile hike by taking the ferry across both Swift Current Lakes and Lake Josephine. which I highly recommend. The boat trip in and of itself is just a great way to add some variety to your day. It's really beautiful and it makes the hike a little more manageable. Highly recommended. If you want help planning your trip, check the links in the description box below. There's a bunch of planning and booking resources that you can use to plan and book your trip. And, of course, keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national parks vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.